What we want to do now, though, is turn to our first keynote dialogue. And we have with us, again, very honored to have with us His Excellency Mr. Paul Kagame, who is the President of the Republic of Rwanda. Before becoming President, Mr. Kagame was Vice President and Minister for Defense in the Government of National Unity from 1994, and 4 years later was elected Chairman of the RPF, partner in the Government of National Unity. Mr. Kagame became President of the Republic of Rwanda after being elected by the Transnational Assembly in 2000. But then in 2003, he was elected in the first ever democratic presidential election in Rwanda to become president, and then was re-elected again for another 7-year term in 2010. As president, Paul Kagame has prioritized national development, launching a program which aims to transform Rwanda into a middle-income country by 2020. As of 2013, the country is developing strongly in key indicator areas, including healthcare and education, so that its annual growth between 2004 and 2010 averaged about 8% a year, which, if you know, our own growth rate in the United States is quite good. So we're going to do this remotely via feed from Rwanda, and Dr. Armen Orujyan will be here as a moderator to do this in a sort of Davos-style talk show dialogue format. So welcome back again, Dr. Armen Orujyan and His Excellency Mr. Paul Kagame.
Your Excellency, it's great to have you with us. It's an honor to have you join us from Rwanda. I understand how busy your schedule is, but we appreciate it, and I'm sure our audience here, it's a great honor for everyone to have you here joining us all the way from another part of the world. So I wanted us to start this. We're going to have a dialogue for the next 45 minutes, talk about some issues when it comes to developments in Rwanda, but also when it comes to youth and technology. So what I want to start with, once again, I want to welcome you and say it's an honor and give you an opportunity for you to intervene and welcome everyone here.
Well, thank you, Dr. Orujyan, for inviting me, and greetings to all of you participants to Athgo's 5th Global Innovation Forum. Well, it's a pleasure for me to interact with you and contribute to this important dialogue. The ability to participate in this forum, which is taking place in DC, while I am in Kigali, is a testimony to the power of technology and the efficiency it brings. Let me share a few thoughts as we begin, but I will keep my remarks short so that we make this session as interactive as possible. Firstly, I believe that one of the major challenges facing governments and policymakers today is how to build a viable and sustainable entrepreneurial economies in a highly competitive and globalized marketplace. Entrepreneurship is an indispensable solution to bridge the gap between the supply and demand of jobs in developing economies. It allows us to realize the benefits of the innovative potential that young people are naturally endowed with. Secondly, information and communication technology is an indispensable platform for individuals, organizations, and governments. It enables efficient communication, access to information, and transactions. And for entrepreneurs, technology is very essential for global application of ideas, products, and services. Today, the growth of mobile penetration broadband cloud computing, social media, and other technologies present unprecedented opportunities for young people to be part of the social economic transformation underway. Thirdly, there is need for an effective global entrepreneurial framework. This calls for collaboration between the government, development organizations, academia, and the private sector. On this note, I would like to thank you and Athgo for the role you are playing as an intermediary between entrepreneurial ideas and application. The world is not short of innovative and entrepreneurial ideas, but rather the conversion of that to successful application. That's why I highly recommend the good work you are doing. Finally, I would like to say that in Rwanda, we are striving to equip the youth with the skills and access to technology and to create an ecosystem where entrepreneurial ideas can thrive. That is why we create a Ministry of Youth and ICT to ensure the government efforts in building the ICT sector are channeled towards empowering the youth. So thank you very much for inviting me and for your kind attention.
Thank you, President Kagame. You mentioned that the idea of merging youth and ICT, you've merged these two portfolios into one ministry. And we're fortunate to have actually the Minister of ICT and Youth of Rwanda here in the audience with us, and he'll be speaking tomorrow. I wanted you to shed maybe a little bit more light on what this means for Rwanda's national economy and nation building and overall by bringing these two portfolios under one ministry.
Well, first of all, the youth ministry's responsibility and that of ICT put together was really to make sure that we leverage, first of all, our youthful population and therefore benefit from the demographic dividends by also bringing close to that youthful population the technologies that are going to accelerate our process of development. So that's why we brought them together and so that they play a central role in our development process.
When it comes to Rwandan experience, Rwanda as a country was very different 19 years ago than it is now after the 1994 genocide. And in all these 19 years, over these 19 years, the country has transformed incredibly. I just recently found that the bank, even by World Bank's data, Rwanda stands as the 6th easiest country to do business in. So I wanted to understand if you've perhaps enacted a strong national policy or set of policies making entrepreneurship, investment, starting, and if necessary, actually failing business seamless. Can you perhaps give us a few examples of what's being done in Rwanda in that space?
What we are doing in Rwanda, if I may build on what I have just said about youth and ICT, therefore technology and how that can be built on, we also created institutions. For example, we have Rwanda Development Board working together with the Ministry of Trade and Industry to make sure that as we bring together youth and ICT and then in coordination with other institutions, we build around that entrepreneurial culture and spirit, and therefore help developing this entrepreneurial spirit. And we have focused, for example, in terms of policies, making sure that small and medium enterprises are encouraged and helped and facilitated to develop. And from that, we have also allowed a process of competition to encourage people with ideas to come forward, and also as they are supported for that to happen.
Thank you. For the sake of the audience, when we talk about starting a business in any country, it's important for you to have the minimal time frame for you to start a business. And what Republic of Rwanda has accomplished is tremendous. Because there is a lot of countries on the planet where you have a great innovative idea, but it will take you over a year for you just to establish a name for the company. So if you have a creative idea, innovative idea, you will not be able to actually get it into the system until a year or even more later, which means you will not be able to practice entrepreneurial affair. It kills the business right away. So, and right now, Republic of Rwanda is doing tremendous work in making it simple for people to start businesses, but also fail. Failing is a very important concept of starting an entrepreneurial affair. You should be able to, as our colleague from the World Bank mentioned, to pivot. So not considering as a failure, but pivot to do something else. President Kagame, can you briefly also speak about what type of a broadband approach are you taking in Rwanda to make for the Rwandans access to resources that are available not only locally but also globally, so for them to be able to access them through broadband, through internet? Are there any specifics that are being done in Rwanda?
Yes. See, it has been established, the correlation between broadband and the access to that. If you increase access to that, you are in a way increasing the growth of GDP. That has been established. So after knowing that, what we have done has been to encourage public-private partnerships in making the kinds of investments that are required. So the government has established or has invested in broadband infrastructure. And at the same time, we have also brought in the private sector to also invest in the activities, so to speak, in the last mile connectivity and the use of this technology. So bringing together the private sector and the government resources, we have been able to invest in broadband and across the country, laid optic fiber, and reaching all corners of our country so that there is nobody left behind. And we are seeing that already benefiting many businesses and many people who have been taking advantage of that.
Is there a timeline that you believe that everyone in Rwanda, for instance, will be able to access internet and be connected so they can maximize their own individual potential?
In fact, we are already a long way into that. Almost the 60% of our active population in one way or another are having access. So the 40% remaining should take much shorter time, and we expect in the next 3 to 5 years the whole country to be covered and everybody capable and taking advantage of this state-of-the-art broadband infrastructure and the accessibility of it to the remotest part of our country.
Thank you. And by the way, we're going to open this for Q&A in a little bit. So you'll have an opportunity to actually speak to President Kagame. He's been gracious to be willing to open this up to our participants here. So before we open it to you, I wanted to explore a few more things with you, President. One, are there specific problems in Rwanda that currently persist in the socioeconomic space where entrepreneurial engagements could be useful and commercially viable? I'm looking at this room. We have participants from over 50 countries, And even Rwanda could be a destination in thinking process, in identifying some of the problem areas and perhaps finding solutions to some of those persisting elements in Rwanda. So finding ways maybe even engage these young folks in things that you're doing in Rwanda. So if you can speak a little bit to that, that would be wonderful.
Well, thank you. Well, even with the progress we have made in the social economic transformation of the country, there are still many challenges. But the best way to approach it is to not look at challenges as such and remain there, but to see how we can turn challenges into opportunities of investments, of where entrepreneurial spirit and activities can play a role and also benefit. So, for example, whether it is in agriculture or in education or health or hospitality industry and other areas, there is a lot of room for entrepreneurs, for people with that kind of background and with the spirit and the urge to exploit this, to play a role. For example, in education, much as we have encouraged and promoted the use of ICT and made investments in the kinds of infrastructure that is required, the local content is still limited. So production of local content to be utilized and put into play by the kinds of applications that are available is one area that requires people to pay attention and play a role, and therefore not only resolve the, deal with the challenges, but also benefit from investing their time and resources and technology as well. Thank you.
I wanted to switch gear a little bit, and I wanted to ask you a personal question. I wanted to, if you would share this with our audience, what did it take for you to ascend to presidency? Was it a childhood dream, something you sought after when you were about their age, or was it just life circumstances?
Well, I think it is a combination of many factors. I wouldn't say it is just one thing that really happened, but it's a combination of circumstances as well as the person that I was fortunate to be in terms of whenever faced with the challenges, I want to stand up to that and do the best I can to deal with it.
Very good, thank you. So we're going to open it for Q&A, and so if you guys have questions that you want to ask directly to the President of Rwanda, this is your opportunity. If no takers? All right, so we have a gentleman here. Yes, we can, of course. Yes.
Hello, my name's Lucas Johnson. I got the opportunity to study in Tanzania.
Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're from.
I'm from upstate New York, and I was in Tanzania last semester, and one of my friends who was studying there with me got to visit Rwanda, and she described her country as being very progressive, especially in the way that women are treated. I was just wondering some of the ways that you started this or encouraged this during your presidency.
So gender equality, women's rights. Thank you.
Right. Well, really, given where we have come from and the kinds of problems we have had to deal with, we have also understood that we need to be inclusive, we need to bring in the talent and ingenuity of every individual, and therefore when it comes to this, we are looking at the whole population and what we can do together. It's not the time you would forget that especially women in our society, like in Rwanda, constitute 53% of our population. even from that simple logic that you need everybody and therefore you need even more, 53% of our population. Therefore, we thought we needed to look at the whole nation and our people, and also realize that bringing in women into the mainstream is also a question of their rights. They are human beings, they are people who aspire, and together we form one society, and really that's how the drive came about, and it started much early in our struggle, and therefore we designed the policies that could bring women and men together to maximize on the productivity of our people, because our vision also rests on the fact that we treat our people as the main asset of our country.
President Kagame, would literacy rate be the same for women and for men and men, or is there a difference?
Historically, there has been a big difference, women's being lower than men's, but we have since been correcting the imbalance since we came to power, and now almost at par in terms of access to education. And in fact, we've seen women are as good, if not better than men, when you look at results year in, year out, and how they have performed at different levels, and even in the competitions, or when you have national exams at primary level, ending primary level, or higher education, or tertiary level, we found women are as good as they should be, and as they are, and as men are themselves.
Wonderful. Yes.
Hello, my name is Clayton Kyer. I'm from Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. And as we think about development, one of the pushes that's being made currently is for sustainability. So what initiatives is Rwanda taking for sustainable growth?
Thank you.
Many things. In terms of development, you are really talking about people primarily, and that's where we come from. We think so much about people and how we can invest in our people, especially in education, in health. If a population is healthy and is educated, and then the rest will follow. Good infrastructure and doing business and many other things we encourage. But for sustainable growth, therefore, you need to have these kinds of investments in people, in infrastructure, but also create the institutions through which they work to make sure that there is delivery in every process. So therefore, sustainable growth, we've seen, for example, Rwanda has been growing at an average of 8% in terms of growth of our GDP for the last 10 years. And we have found that focus on people, on infrastructure, on institutions, and then focusing on making them work is something that delivers year in, year out.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please. Microphone. You're welcome to line up, perhaps, those of you who have questions, so we won't ask every time. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, President Kagame. My name is Janelle Smith. I live in New York City, and my question for you is, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
Excellent question. Thank you.
The most rewarding part of my job is the most challenging one as well. It's making sure that while most of the time I'm at work and thinking how we can bring all the resources of our country together to make sure that we overcome the kinds of challenges we have to face, whether it is poverty, and therefore raise incomes of our people, but through their own activities and facilitation and coordination. And I'm saying it is the most rewarding, much as it is in terms of challenges. It is also very challenging. It is rewarding when you see that progress is being made. People are saying they are able to make a difference in their daily lives because of these activities we engage in together. So that one part of, one area of success leads to another, and we find we are moving on.
Thank you. Please.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président, Son Excellence. My name is Bellarmine. I'm from Cameroon. My question has probably a little bit of subset, so bear with me, sir. I just wanted to find out, you made mention about infrastructures being put in place in Rwanda that would encourage the youthful population, which has always been plagued with unemployment. And my particular question is, how are these individuals, selected to have access to these infrastructures? And if so, from my own experience growing up in this part of the world, there's always an issue of, corruption of, some people are more favored than some other people, and, because these initiatives are supposed to be, the eye-opener of the world and the way through which most people are are going to be exposed to the world. Do we have safeguards to corruption and, that people are being selected by merit? And for those that are not fortunate enough, do you have people taking care of, their needs so that, they too at some point are not just left behind because of maybe some other ailments to, that hinders upon their abilities? And the last question that I have, again, sorry for this, is when you spoke about local content, we may have the infrastructures in place, but if these infrastructures are not relevant to our own indigenous problems, I don't think they will probably be meaningful to our experience. For example, if we take an infrastructure which is convenient for the United States and we probably implement it to Cameroon or to Rwanda, there may be solving different kind of problems, and the experience may not be relevant, based on our own,
Thank you.
Local experience.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Excellent set of questions. Please.
I try to shorten the answer. Fighting corruption is one thing we have so much focused on, and in fact, some of the problems mentioned, like some people being favored against others, does not exist in our part of the area. And I'll just give you figures to elaborate that, and I'll stop at it. Because if you look at, say, education and access to it, access to education in Rwanda is for all those that need to, for example, be, whether it is primary school or high school or higher education. For primary school and higher education, high school, it goes over 90%. When you're talking about, let's say we have health insurance in Rwanda that covers up to 96% of our population, and so on and so forth. So, and then for higher education, we have put in place loan scheme that facilitates people to access money to enable them to have that education, and it is open for all, and it's always monitored, and we make sure that everybody has access to that. So that does not apply in our case, and the numbers and the results speak for themselves. But we also focus on making sure that there is a process of accountability, there is transparency in the systems as we manage our affairs, to make sure that we minimize any sense of favoritism of any kind, and so on.
And those are one of the key things, right, President, when it comes to driving entrepreneurship in any kind of a setting, but having all of those essentially checks and balances in place to make sure that a newcomer into the business environment is not feeling compelled to do one thing or another that is not part of the dream or the process that needs to move forward. Eliminating all of those obstacles is just makes the progress so much simpler.
Absolutely, and that's how in doing business, the ranking has been so high. You are able to open a business in 6 hours when it used to be 60 and more days and so on and so forth. Bringing that, we made sure that whoever wants to open a business and do their business, do it with minimal cost and avoiding what, other costs they used to face by paying for what really wasn't supposed to be part of the cost. So really, this is how we've been able to do it.
Thank you. The next, please.
Hello, President Kagame, and thank you for your time. My name is Nathan Bailey, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. My question is, you spoke of fueling entrepreneurship and developing growth in your country, and I'm wondering, what do you currently have in place in terms of higher level education and resources to fund this development and growth through your entrepreneurs?
Thank you.
Yes, you see, we are very conscious of the fact that, and by the way, as I speak to the young people there, formal education is very important. It's a foundation. We need to focus on it, but we need to build on it because it is rather, it's a means, not an end in itself. So then there's the other side where an entrepreneurship, mentoring systems, competition, as we say, as I earlier on mentioned, we allow people with ideas, with creative minds we create a framework where they can realize their dream by being there and expressing themselves and competing with others, and we reward those who are doing well and encourage others to be part of that as well. So we do it through education and provision of skills through training and so on and so forth. We have formed institutions. We put in place policies and programs to support that, and we encourage people to participate, as well as we have put in place possibilities for them to access finance in the areas that we need and support their financial power to move an extra mile.
Very good, thanks. And I think throughout we're going to be discussing several things that make entrepreneurship powerful, including the financial part. And so we'll have some sessions that specifically discuss how one can get those types of resources and what it would take. Please.
Hello, my name is Mohamedou Diatta, young African leader from Senegal. My question is, I think another area that I think is just as important as technology is agriculture, especially in Africa. And considering that there's so much that agriculture could benefit from technology, what are some of the ways that your government is working to bring those two together? Thank you.
Yes. Right. In fact, agriculture has seen consistent growth in Rwanda also in the last 6 to 7 years. Before that, there was negative growth in that sector, but today we see an average growth of about 5 to 6% consistently. And it's because of the investments we've made. One, we have organized farmers, we have given them possibility and access to the required tools. We have also involved use of technology that was not there before, and we gave them access to fertilizer where fertilizer were required, access to seed varieties that have increased productivity, preparation of land and better use of land and water. So because of that, we have seen continued growth. Now Rwanda is, self-sufficient in terms of food. Food security is ensured, and after that we are able to export to our neighboring countries and beyond.
Thank you. Please.
Hello, my name's Rose. I have a quick question.
From?
I'm from Los Angeles. I just want to know if someone has a criminal record and they're trying to make it in life and they go ahead and rehabilitate, show that they deserve a second chance, how do you get other people to let those people have a second chance when, let's say that one person has a dream that they need a security clearance to get to the job they need, but if you have any kind of criminal record, you'll never get there. How do you solve that problem?
Thank you. So I suppose every country deals with these types of issues differently. President, we briefly discussed here before we connected with you. There are some businesses we call constructive that also have social impact on the communities. And one of them, I presented an example. We have a colleague who has a business, a large recycling business in California that has become the largest one in Northern Hemisphere. 2/3 of his employees have criminal records. So he really has an incredible social impact on these people and the communities, because if he were not to give them this opportunity, these people will really not have many opportunities for them to regain themselves, to redeem themselves, to come back and be part of the community, be part of the society. So I'm sure that those types of elements are different in Rwanda. What is your take on that?
Well, it's a very good question. In fact, in Rwanda, that kind of problem is on a different scale. We have had a population that massively got involved, I would call it a crime, actually the worst crime probably in a country could face. We have a big population that got involved in genocide, and people killed their neighbors, and so on and so forth. So we had to deal with hundreds of thousands of people who got involved in killing their neighbors and killing people. And we had a loss of 1 million lives in 1994. But we had to figure out how to deal with this problem. And two things. We needed to carry out justice and make sure that such a crime would never be committed again with impunity. But at the same time, we had an imperative of reconciling our society, at the same time allow our country to move into a better future and not be trapped in our history and in our past. So this is why I'm saying it was on another scale, and we had to make sure that, one, we categorize responsibility in this crime. We had the first category, the mass murderers, the people who committed other crimes, and we had the 4 categories. So we concentrated on the first 2 and allowed the other lower categories to be reintegrated easily in our society with the minimal accountability. But on the top, again, we went even through that and made sure that we managed it in a certain way that we allow the country to move on, but we also give everyone in these categories a chance where they showed that they wanted another chance, and maybe many of them who had committed this crime had been influenced by others, or bad leaders who were few brought the population to commit crimes. So it's important to make sure that you reconcile, you forgive, you don't forget, you make sure you also are seen to be carrying out justice as it should be. So it's a very complex area, but nonetheless, those are the guiding principles. You need to give a chance. You need to hold accountable people who should be, and you need to fight impunity so that the crime is not repeated.
Thank you. This will be the last question, please.
President Kagame, thank you for your time. My name is Georgi and I'm from Bulgaria. I recently graduated from Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Massachusetts. My country shares the same vision of becoming an ICT hub on the Balkans through the development of tech parks, business incubators, and establishment of accelerator programs. Are these also some of the approaches that you are considering in the long term for Rwanda?
I don't think I properly heard.
I would wanna thank you. I would wanna perhaps add to what the young man just said. It would speak to also your dream for Rwanda. What is it that you envision for Rwanda to be within the next 5 years or within the next 10 years? I understand that this is your last term as a president, and you've served very successfully and happily for your people. What is it that you envision Rwanda to turn under, not only under your leadership, but under the structures and infrastructure that you've created, that you've developed for Republic of Rwanda to turn into?
Well, simply making sure that Rwandans are able to register prosperity, because that is the aspiration of every nation, of every people, and live in a stable environment, socially, politically, economically, and continue to make progress. Really, in a nutshell, this is what I want for my country, and to be able to move on and sustainably.
Thank you. We have an incredible brain power in this room, no doubt. It's not patronizing. You guys know it yourself. I'm sure you scream about this when you're looking at yourself in the mirrors, or your friends tell you that you're fantastic and fabulous. I wanted to come back to you, President Kagame, and in conclusion for this conversation or for this dialogue that we're having, do you envision in some ways that this group, what we're doing, could be something that would be effective in Rwanda for what you're doing, for your plans, for your dreams, for your country?
Absolutely. Let me, first of all, as I once again thank you for this invitation, say that I'm looking forward one way or the other to benefit from the ideas, the ingenuity of the people in that room that we are interacting, and also invite them collectively, individually, whatever is possible, to come and be part of the building story of Rwanda. We want to be with them, we want to share with them, and we want to benefit from their brilliant ideas and whatever they have to offer, and I know there is plenty of that. So I just wanted to end on that note.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for your wonderful contributions to this session. President Kagame, this really, it's an honor, it's a humbling experience to have you in the room, albeit digitally, but it feels like you're here sitting with us. Great system, by the way, by the World Bank and your office. Thanks for bringing this wonderful opportunity to us. And again, we commend you for the hard work that you've done in your country and you continue doing. And also, I understand, besides being the president of a country, you're also presiding over numerous of other international organizations or agencies that are doing incredible development work throughout the world. So I commend you for your efforts, for your time, and congratulations again on turning Rwanda into this prosperous oasis in the region that you are in. So thanks again, and look forward to meeting you and talking to you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.